Sorry.
How did I end up on the Go Astro stuff anyway? There we go. Nope, there we go.
For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Take me out to Twitchy Dolphin Media presents Let's Get To. It's baseball from sea to shining sea by the team that brings you home. And now, your host, James Christopher.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We are very excited at the Let's Get To team to announce another show, a separate show by Twitchy Dolphin Media, our production company, and Let's Get To, called Let's Get To Live. And what I'm very excited about is the group on this stream right now will basically be the 4 producers of this show. One combination of all of us, many combinations of many of us, will be on this thing, hopefully weekly, with other guests, talking other things. But I thought it'd be kind of cool because, Scott and I have an audience. Emily has an audience. Ed, you have an audience, but these audiences don't overlap yet. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to introduce to everyone who we are. And I had some fun kind of questions to get started. And I'm going to begin with introducing, first and foremost, before we get to our questions, Scott McIntyre, who's one of the executive producers for Let's Get To. Scott, thanks for jumping on.
Hey, man, it's great. This is fantastic to be part of the Let's Get To live crew.
You have waited a really long time for that.
Is it to quit?
Since you just said it and it went into my head, and I was like, please come to me first, because if either of them steal it, I'm going to feel terrible.
I'd like to announce the end of one of Let's Get To's new shows. Also, one of our regular contributors on the regular Let's Get To show, and now, again, one of the producers on Let's Get To Live. You can find her at Breaking Balls Podcast. I don't know why I did that awkwardly. Em, how are you?
I'm great. Very happy to be here.
You have been it's funny because I'm messaging you when this happens, but I've ran into all these random people that want to tell me what a big fan they are of yours. I think it's awesome. All of them Astros fans too, which I think you and I have created this really ability to really build bridges, I think.
Yeah, I think we have too. I mean, I'm not surprised, Jim, if I could just say that we're both awesome and very funny and very personable. So, I mean, I am kind of off-put by anyone who doesn't feel that way. Just put it that way.
You know what? I need to adopt that level of positivity instead of the self-deprecation that I live with on the daily. And, of course, the guy who only wears one kind of hat, Ed Rivera of the Dad Hat Chronicles. Ed, how are you?
Man, I'm living the dream, baby. What are you doing, Scotty?
D-A-D. That's D-A-D.
Yes,
Dad.
sir. I usually would wear my dad hat. I don't know where it is. As you can see, there's no dad hats behind me right now. So it's like Dad Hat Studios is coming down for a little bit, so it's tons of fun.
A relocation.
Yes, sir.
But we have some sort of icebreakers. I'm doing icebreakers because we start school next week, and I really hate those stupid things. Let's all.
We all hate them, but yet we all enjoy them when they happen.
We do. But I wanted to go ahead and start going around the room. We'll go Scott, Emily, and Ed, the Major League Baseball team that you unfortunately probably give much of your life to. Everybody knows pretty quickly that I am an Astros fan. Scott is holding up the birds on the bat.
The
Scott,
light blue version. Yes.
You are enduring one of the worst seasons in Cardinals history. How's it going?
It's easy for me because I'm also an Arkansas Razorbacks fan, so I am accustomed to having hope and watching it get taken away early or late, just whatever's going to maximize the heartbreak. So watching this year for the Cardinals and having just endured the Blues season, which pretty much looks exactly like the Cardinals season, I've got a real thick, callous skin at this point, Jim.
I was going to say there's probably some moisturizer you can get for that, but we'll
talk about, a little baby powder too helps a lot.
We'll talk about that offline. Emily, you are
I am a New York Yankees fan, everybody. So
You're
it's embarrassing to say now. How far has this franchise fallen? My God.
You know, it's funny though. You brought up something interesting, and it's the double-edged sword. You and I I can't remember if it was you and I talking on Twitter with other people. I'm sorry, on X.
On X, yeah, get it right.
Whatever this.
How dare
is.
you? How
But
you get it wrong?
we've always talked, particularly Andy and I, and Go Astros, about the sort of the media bias and the sort of league counts on, they want the Yankees to be good because of finances. But you brought up the fact that it also prevents really the Yankees from being able to do a rebuild because all 29 owners would freak if a good Yankees team didn't come to town. I thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah, I've been going off on like crazy, like, like in the movies, like when there's someone like a crazy detective with like all the strings attached on like cork boards. I've been like doing that late into the night every night, like really thinking about the Yankees and all of the salaries and the payroll salaries. I was going back to 2011 to like figure out the percentage increase since like in salary since then, always trying to connect all these dots with why the Yankees are the way that they are at this point in time and why I don't really see it getting that much better. So for everyone that prayed for the Yankees downfall, congratulations, you've won, because here it is. It's happening in front of us in real time.
Wow. Oh, speaking of, and then Ed, we all know who you root for.
Yes. I'm a Guardians fan. I'm a Browns fan, Scotty. So you already know, like, I mean, I know the hurt. The years of hurt, the years of just being in the basement constantly. Cavs fan, we won the championship, but after that, it just, we just drove off the cliff, and then, we've been on a constant spiral down,
The funny thing is, Ed, is you were supposed to be with me in Houston on Tuesday.
Thank you, Jesus. I wasn't. Oh my God. You know how pissed I would have been?
I wonder though, or would you have been like, okay, at the end of the day, a no-hitter is cool no matter who?
No. I'll say this. I'm going to say this. I'll say this as a killer. I'm so happy that it happened to my team. I'm so happy. Why? Because they decided half a game back of first place to just gut the team at the trade deadline. All right.
I'm really surprised you still have that C flag on your wall. Dude, it would just be a plain white flag.
It came close. They gave up the flag. Yeah, they gave up. Right. So I was like, I'm so happy that it happened to them, because apparently, and from what I understand, is both the GM and the president of the team had to fly to Houston and have a meeting with the team, because the team is pissed off.
Good. And then they got no hit.
And then they got no hit.
Yeah, they got no hit.
These things go together.
And it was a weird thing, because I had a feeling in the fourth inning it was going to happen. And I started texting people in the sixth.
Yeah, thanks.
Romber's pitching very well.
Yeah, I know. He was good. Very well. I mean, you know what?
Very well.
Turn off for the rest of the night.
All right. Now we're going to go a little around the table. So I want to hear your favorite high points of your fandom or moments. For me, it's Yordan's home run in Game 6. Although I hate it too, because I hate that maybe my favorite call in Astros history was a national guy, which kind of, but the game is turned upside down. Is pretty good. Emily, how about you? Your biggest sort of Yankee moment that lives in your heart?
It's gonna have to be in Game 2. I'm pretty sure it was Game 2 of the 2009 ALDS Yankees versus Twins. They were losing they needed 2 runs to tie it. A-Rod got up, 2 outs, bottom of the 9th inning, hit that game-tying home run. It was great. I mean, I still think about it all the time. I watch it sometimes. It felt good as an A-Rod fan, especially a Yankee fan, obviously, at the time, just for him to have that moment.
Is that pre or EDs?
Were you as big an A-Rod fan then? Like, has it been a consistent thing for you?
Yeah, I was. Yes, I was a huge A-Rod fan. Because when I was a kid, like, I didn't grow up in a family that is like, my dad isn't like a huge Yankees fan. My dad went to the Naval Academy. He's a Navy fan. So we watch Navy football. That's like the only sort of really strong fandom that my dad has for sports. So I grew up, I was a Mariners fan at first because I loved Ken Griffey Jr. because he was the most popular player. Did I ever watch a Mariners game? No, I don't think so. But then I must have at one point, because then I loved A-Rod. I thought he was like the first baseball crush that I ever had. I was like a little kid. So then when he came, I was a big fan. Then when he came to the Yankees, it was like the best thing ever. And then the PED stuff was like the worst thing ever. Wait, I'm getting my head of myself. That could be my worst moment.
Yeah, we're a little ahead of that. What about you, Scott?
Best moment? Well, my best baseball moment ever was actually the last time I got to wear this jersey. You see what I found? See what we found in storage? My final jersey from Warsaw. But that's my favorite baseball moments, when I struck the dude out and ended my career with a blown shoulder.
That's also your worst moment.
No, not really. It gave me an excuse not to go back. My favorite baseball moment, though, was so growing up in Little Rock, Arkansas, and the Arkansas Travelers were the AA team for the Travelers. Rick's Armory sat past left field, and Jim, I've taken you there. I've shown you this. Even though the field's not there anymore, Jack Clark was down visiting in a spring training game. It was the last spring training game before they make it up to St. Louis. It was the year after the Cards and the Royals had played in the World Series. They are there, and Jack Clark hits a ball that's probably estimated to go about 480 feet over the left field wall, and that was the first time for this, whatever I was, 14, it was like, oh, wow, these guys hit the ball really, really far. This is different from what we normally watch at the AA level. This is crazy. So that for me, that was my best moment, because it was like, it was really that realization live of how great these guys are.
And other than the Major League World Premiere, have there been any good moments for Cleveland in your
Major League 2? No.
No one believes that.
No, not at all. It's a two-parter for me. The 2016 Rajai Davis hitting that home run, that was such a cool moment. If it didn't rain, we would have won the whole series, I believe, still to this day. But obviously, baseball gods didn't want us to win, so it happened the other way. But that was a cool moment, right? Like Rajai Davis hitting that home run, like that camera angle when it was just coming at it. It was awesome, right? I was screaming like a little girl. Still, remember that. And then, the other one is before we left for Cleveland, took my daughter to her first baseball game.
Oh,
ever.
Aww.
Her first her first and last Indians game.
I wonder what they'll rebrand to again in 5 years. Ed, we'll begin with you again now for your worst baseball memory.
97 World Series.
Okay.
Greg Counsell.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Emily, how about you?
Oh, my worst. I have big time recency bias, so I'm gonna go just game 3 of last year's ALCS, because I was actually at Yankee Stadium. It was the first playoff game I'd ever been to. I was inexplicably feeling good, even though they dropped 2 in Houston, and then they did not score a single run with their ace on the mound, and it was
over after that.
It was over. It was over. Yeah, it was over.
I think for me, one of the things that I'm super excited about, because I've started to kind of have a level of affection for the Mets, which I'll actually explain in tomorrow's Let's Get To why that happens. And so I'm thankful for Howie Kendrick banging one off the foul pole, that I can now get over the Mets in 86 and replace it with my worst moment ever, which is Game 7 of the 2019 World Series. I don't know how that's ever, like, I was talking to somebody, like the 21 World Series, that Astros team was dead. It took everything to get there.
Mm-hmm.
They had nothing left.
They're just running out of gas.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I can see that happening again this year, frankly. Like, obviously it's way too early to tell, but yeah, that was it. Scott, what about you?
I was just flashing back to you saying banging one off the foul pole and thinking that's what Wade Boggs did 2 hours after the game. Anyway, terrible joke. For me, the worst baseball moment is the drop fly ball in the College World Series for the Arkansas Razorbacks. But the worst moment for the St. Louis Cardinals is Don freaking Dinkinger, when Don Dinkinger blows the call at first base and the Cardinals lose the World Series. Thanks, Don.
Yikes.
Good job. Where's that instant replay 40 years ago? Back in my day, Jimmy. Let me tell you.
Back in my day.
All right. We had one last icebreaker question. Favorite movie and why? Mine is Jaws, because it's perfect. Emily?
Mine is Apollo 13, because it is also perfect, and the Apollo space program ruled and has been inspiring me my whole life.
I like that movie except for one thing.
What?
Houston, we have a problem. Anytime now, anything that goes wrong.
It's Houston, we have a problem.
When they use it. That's my favorite part. Look at me. I just said. Like, man.
Tell me how you really feel, Jim.
Yeah. But that movie it's perfect. Ron Howard. Can't beat it.
Yeah.
Scotty Mack.
Favorite movie is Snatch, because Guy Ritchie takes multiple stories, ties them in together, and brings out this beautiful product by condensing space and time.
Oh, such a good movie.
I don't know that I've ever seen the movie, Scott.
Me either.
What?
I will fix it.
So
this
that's
weekend.
that's where I leave, guys.
Yeah, all right. I'm more behind you, Scott. I'm right behind you.
Jessica's at Jordan's wedding shower, so I will watch it this weekend. I've got a whole list of stuff. Me and the dogs.
If you don't get to it, then whenever we're in Peoria, I got to find like a portable Blu-ray player or something. Or
they have these things called laptops and
They have these things just like iTunes.
A Blu-ray player.
Boy, I bet we can get you a VHS if we really search.
I can try to be one of those VHS.
I need a color TV.
And Ed, your last one.
Guys, I'm gonna have to go baseball. It's still to me, Bull Durham.
Can't argue with it. All right. Like I said, we're going to be around every single week doing this live thing. And the fun part is sometimes I won't be on it. Sometimes it'll be just one of us. We're going to have random people popping in. So hopefully you'll stay tuned for that. Okay. Trade deadline. I want to start with Ed.
I need a beer.
We just all turn into therapists for Ed at this point.
We might have to. But Ed, I'm curious as to who you think won the trade deadline.
I know you're probably going to hate this, Jim, but I think the Rangers did a really good job at the trade deadline. They really did such a superb job. And I also add your Houston Astros getting Verlander back, right? I mean, they solidified that starting lineup. The state of Texas, I'm going to say the state of Texas won the trade deadline.
Emily, I don't disagree with him, mostly because the Rangers, frankly, had more needs.
They did. Yours, yeah.
With injury. But Emily, if you could have taken Scherzer over Verlander or Verlander over Scherzer, what would you have done?
I think I would have taken Verlander. I think that he obviously was injured in the beginning of the year and then had a tough start once he got going. But now his last 7 or 8 starts, he's been a lot tighter. He's been looking pretty good. So, and I think with that the Mets, their bullpen was just totally shot, didn't have their star. So he was losing a lot of games or getting a lot of no decisions just because their bullpen couldn't hold anything. So you know how that always is. It makes a starting pitcher, even if they have a good start, makes them not look as good for whatever reason, if it's not their fault. So I think, and Scherzer's been a little up and down. It's been kind of not as much himself as I think Verlander has gotten in the last few weeks.
Scott, do you want to chime in on that? I mean,
well, I completely agree about the Rangers. About the Rangers kind of winning the deadline. I also feel like the Angels did a great job.
They did.
Yeah.
As well, taking a look at where they needed to plug holes, especially in the outfield with a little bit of pitching depth. And if you base it on potential, my Cardinals did a fantastic job as well. We got rid of contracts that we were losing at the end of the year on a lost season and basically replenished the entire pitching staff at Double-A. I mean, it's not too shabby.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think of the two, Verlander's still under control next year.
Yeah, we've got 2 more years of them, and they got the Emily. You might correct my numbers on this, but I feel like the Mets are paying 70% of his salary for the next
35 or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to cost the Astros $20 million for 3 years.
I think go ahead. Go ahead, Em.
I was just going to add that 2025 is an option year. It vests if he throws 140 innings next year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that, in my opinion, that's a better deal, and I think Verlander has learned to pitch as he's losing velocity. I think he's learned to become more of a pitcher. Whereas Scherzer is still a bit of a thrower at times when he struggles. It seems like
when he shouldn't,
when he's losing the power. Right.
Yeah.
We'll watch Wainwright go through that 5 years ago. I wish he'd find a little bit of that power so he could get 2 more wins and get to 200. But still, I would take Verlander over Scherzer because 2 years is really all you're going to get out of either one of them, probably.
Yeah. I mean, what? Verlander's in his 40s now?
39.
39, like he's right there on the cusp. I'm I'm with you.
I can barely get out of bed. So
for real.
Once you hit 50, folks, it just don't get any better. I mean,
you get out of bed, all of a sudden you pull your back like, sweet Jesus, I just got up.
I'm staying back down. The Mets are interesting because I want to talk Angels too, but the Mets are interesting to me because none of it makes a lot of sense to me. I know the bullpen was shot, and the injury to the closer was definitely like the thing that started it, but it's not like Cohen doesn't have money to essentially have reloaded next year, maybe even getting Ohtani and having an Ohtani, Verlander, Scherzer rotation. Were y'all shocked as well, Emily?
No.
Since you're in New York, were you shocked they sold?
No, I would have been shocked if they hadn't sold. I think that because of this year, and even with Verlander's start, and even though he's starting to look good, but Verlander's start, Scherzer is up and down the whole season. I think that he was just getting rid of it. Let me get rid of it. Let me see, because who knows what's going to happen next year. Verlander may not be able to pitch. Scherzer may not be able to pitch. So then you can't trade them and get anything for them. There was need there. They're on those short deals for a reason, because I would imagine because they're older, but also so they could do this. So now they got something back. They got rid of the guys that they were getting rid of at the end of the year. They got something back. And I know there are a lot of Yankee fans this week desperate to laugh at the Mets because of the money they spent, but there's a lot to be said for an owner being willing to say, hey, it's spent money. And if we want to get better, we can't put lipstick on a pig here. There's no one that we can get that's going to put them in a position to win now. So might as well try to start over, because you're not going to hold on to to Kana. You're not going to hold on to Pham. They're going to get other players in there anyway. So might as well do what they did. I think it was smart. And I think that there's a lot of owners in this league and a lot of fans of other teams that would have been happy if their owner did something similar at some point in time, not necessarily this year.
I do at least appreciate, and I'm curious what Scott and Ed think about this, that apparently Cohen was very upfront with both Scherzer and Verlander with the plan and saying, if you want to waive your no trade clause, our plan is not to win next year. I at least appreciated that approach of at least having some degree of transparency.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to, the more you can communicate to your players and the more you can make them in the know, then the better you're going to be respected throughout the league, because stories go from player to player. And I mean, you heard the story right now. We all heard it moments after all of that came out. I don't, for the Mets though, man, if I'm Mets fan, I feel like every year you're I feel like I'm going out with the girl who promises me this is the time after you take me to the steak dinner. This is the time. This night is the time that I'm going to wake up at your place. And then there's always a run in her hose or something right after dinner. There's always something.
Well, how old are you?
Right.
Yeah, what?
I'm trying to come up with everything I can. I mean,
you own 0 pairs of pantyhose at this point.
Yeah, I'm letting the gray and the beard show tonight.
I mean, she's not.
Yeah. Back to my day.
Then she's at dinner and oops, I gotta go. My sister just X'd me. She didn't tweet me now. She X'd me.
Yes, God, there's so many jokes there.
But no, I if you're Mets fan, seriously, I mean, every year it's like look, we're going for, at least Mets fan knows now. There's no reason to have hope next year. We're not going for it next year. It's already on record. You get a year off, Mets fan. You get a year off. You don't have to be in pain for a year. You're going to suck.
Ed, you want to follow up on that?
Listen, and I'm looking at the standings right now. They're in third place, or they're not going to make anything, right? They got San Diego, Chicago Cubs, the Arizona, and then Miami in front of them in the wild card. They're not going to make the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? So, and I mad respect for Cohen to seeing what it was in front of him and said, let's just get some players under our control. Let's get some young bats, and do what we need to do and go from there. They weren't going to go anywhere. Like, they were losing games. Players are not hitting. He's like, you know what? Cut our losses. Let's get out. I respect that.
And also, if I can add that, besides the fact that I'm not convinced that Epler meant that they actually meant that they also could have been saying anything to get Scherzer to waive his no trade. So we'll never know. I guess we'll know next year. But there is a lot to be said that keeping all those guys on, they're capable of winning games. And maybe they don't want them to win that many games, because obviously the tanking and the reverse win percentage is no longer how they do the draft order. But the more games you lose, like the more numbers you get in the lottery or something like that. So does it really behoove the Mets to win more games in the season than they probably should? Because it won't actually get them anywhere. It won't get them to the postseason, but it will just move them further down in the draft. And their farm system already kind of sucks because the Wilpons did that for years. They were like a 78, 80 win team.
Yeah.
They were just perennially in third place. So they have nothing. And you guys know, especially Jim of the Astros, it's like it takes teams would tank, but it takes like a decade almost to get to the point where you could really develop any sort of core players to then make a run and maybe do that. And I think Cohen found that out by, hey, you can put some plugs in the year, win 101 games, but then those players you're helping that your Canas and your other guys like that are going to have the same year the next year, and they're most likely not going to.
Yeah.
This is the way you have to do it. So I think that also moved towards that.
Mm-hmm.
I think something you touched on a moment ago, though, it's not like Scherzer and Verlander were tearing it up, right? It's not like they had 1.2 ERA and they couldn't get run support. No, they both sucked. They were blowing it at times, and when that happens, it's easy to get rid of somebody, especially if you're 39 and you don't have it. You're not getting younger next year.
But doesn't it also have to do with the fact that their fielding wasn't also helping them either?
Oh,
yeah,
no.
their defense was terrible.
Their defense is terrible.
So Verlander has a 3.15 ERA. Scherzer has a 4.05. So
right. There you go. Verlander started slow or something and came back, but Scherzer's been a total mess.
Right.
This year.
Getting suspended and shit.
Yeah.
That was so dumb.
Like, come on, dude. Like, you knew what you were doing.
Also, Phil Cuzzy, he loved running people for that. He and the other guy, Dan Bellino, were like the two guys that couldn't wait to call someone on a foreign substance.
I was like, I cannot wait. Here I come.
Yeah, they're like that sticky or tacky scale. That's so generic.
That's why you got to make sure not to have the Brill cream in your hair when you're going out to the mountain. I tell you.
The whole scale thing reminded me when Tom Herman was coaching at Texas, and he apparently had above every urinal a color grade for the urine, and if you were peeing clear, it was a championship level, and the darker you got. And I was like, really, Tom? That's what you're worried about? You're not worried about, I don't know, installing an offense? Just anything?
At all. Someone knows nothing else about University of Texas football, and they hear that story, they'd be like, they fired that guy, right? Yeah, okay, no, I'm good with it as long as they fired the guy. Yeah.
Yes, they fired that guy.
Yeah.
One of the teams we didn't talk about, though, that I think ended up doing well, and of course they always do, the Dodgers did well on the trade deadline too. And
yeah, they did.
One of the big debates, and the Dodgers don't have to have it, one of the big debates amongst Astros fans, because people are really mad at the fact that 2 AA players got traded. And I understand, but if the choice is for me for the Astros to shoot for a World Series in 23 and 24, 25 and 26, I'm going to take 23 and 24 every year and then figure out 25 and 26 in 25 and 26. And so, but the Dodgers are able to keep improving and also still maintain one of the best farm systems.
And they got rid of an injured pitcher. Oh, Cleveland got him. Never mind. We're good.
Syndergaard was great in 2015. So I don't know what
right. As soon as they saw, we traded, Ahmed Rosario, who was a really, decent shortstop. Like, I mean, he wasn't the greatest, but he was good. He was getting hits for our team. By the way, another reason why we didn't get a single hit against the Astros. And then we got Noah Syndergaard, who, by the way, also exited the game because he got hit and he's injured. So, yeah, fun stuff.
The one thing about that, though, is people talked about Syndergaard was dominating the Astros. If you watch the game, though, he had 3 outs that measured almost 1,200 feet total. He was simply hitting the ball. The guys were hitting the ball the deepest part of the park, and it was caught against the wall. Yeah, I think 3 of those outs all were over. It was going to happen. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah, but I was watching that, and I was like, there goes the home run. Oh, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, especially in that park, right? Where balls fly out of that park. Let's just be honest.
Would you say it's a little league park, Scott?
No, I'm not saying it's.
I would.
You would, Emily?
I wouldn't call it like Ebbets Field or a popcorn fart or anything like that. But yeah, it's not exactly a gigantic field by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just kind of curious, also, Jim, as an Astros fan, Joe Kelly going back to put the Dodgers uniform on. Does it make you want to punch him in the face more?
I don't know. Look, it's so funny to me. So much of me in the Joe Kelly thing is that there are people who thought that if him and Carlos fought, that he was actually going to win. And I will take the grew up poor in Puerto Rico, pulling himself out of nothing versus probably he played lacrosse as well as baseball. Like, let's be honest. So
Joe Kelly looks like,
and there's also the view that Carlos ran from Joe, but there's aerial photos of Carlo was definitely closer to the Dodgers, Doug. But anyway,
Carlos was just going around so he can go whoop somebody's ass. That's what he was trying to do.
I believe. Look, I mean, honestly, it's a baseball fight, so how bad could it be?
No, not at all. Yeah.
With a pitcher. Pitchers are such babies, too.
The only way Joe Kelly can win that fight is if he knows Kurt Angle's ankle lock and knows exactly which of the two ankles is the bad one on Carlos before any of the rest of us knew it was bad.
That's maybe it. That might have been the only shot. But no, I was there. I think it was game 2 of the season where he came in to try to close it out for Chicago, and I've never heard Minute Maid Park boo a player like they booed him. Like when the Yankees come to town, they don't boo Judge. They don't boo any of those guys. Like,
no, because they want to see them hit a home run.
Well, right. I mean, that's the thing is like there's not a vitriol there. And the fact that he ended up blowing the game and taking the loss, I mean, it couldn't have been. If they would have lost 160 games after that, I'd have been like, well, that was still cool. I got to see that other thing happen. But
so easy how like the vindictive part of you just comes out. You know what I mean? Nothing brings it out more than baseball. Like, I don't hate anybody, but I'll watch a game and I'm like, oh, I fucking hate this guy. Like, why do I hate him so much?
I hate.
The funny part was Texas and the Rangers and the Astros had like a little scrum, and the best thing to come out of that, because I was sitting in the Crawford boxes, is that Chapman and Altuve are walking out away from it with their arms around each other, and I thought, aw, they're friends. Emily,
he loves smiling there. He loves smiling at Minute Maid. It's his favorite place to smile.
Yeah, I wonder why. You know,
such an asshole.
You haven't touched, by the way. You have, and I don't want to get in your thing. It was like, but. Are we going to talk about the fact that like one of the most underwhelming teams that, with such good talent that really also traded away a lot of players in the White Sox?
Oh yeah, Reinsdorf sucks.
Yeah, I mean they weren't having the year they thought they were going to have, right? Giolito.
The last 2 years they haven't had the year that they thought they were going to have.
That's because before La Russa was drunk, so you got to give him a little.
I'll give him that year. Yeah. La Russa was napping, drunk as hell in the dugout.
He was drunk a lot longer. Oh, Tony.
He should have never come back, dude.
Man.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
But all that talent, though, right? Like, I mean, seriously, all that talent and you couldn't even muster getting out of, like, almost last place.
Oh, my God.
Daddy, hug me, God.
We have a guest host. I've got 3 toys on my lap, so I don't know. I think she's trying to tell me something.
Are we done yet?
Are you going to play with me?
I need toys.
For those of you that are just listening to the rebroadcast of this, Quint has jumped into the lap for.
Yeah, there's a German Shepherd in front of the host.
Yeah.
That was so cute. Oh my God.
Hey, baby girl. All right. Well, she's just going to be up here. Oh, there you go. See you later.
White Sox. Yeah, White Sox.
Yeah, White Sox.
Oh, I forgot about them. Yeah, I mean, seriously though, guys that used to be a certain way just aren't that way anymore, and sometimes it falls apart. What is Tony La Russa a great whisperer that had these guys playing better before? I don't know. Maybe, but I don't think so. I just don't think it ever really came together for the White Sox. But the Angels are going to benefit from that, and so all of Southern California is going to benefit from that, I guess. Yeah.
But I'm starting to wonder, from an X's and O's standpoint, what the manager really does or doesn't do at this point, because AJ Hinch was great in Houston, but he was bad before he was in Houston, and he's bad now in Minnesota. Joe Torre wasn't great until he had the Yankees. Like, is it really more Jimmys and Joes and less X's and O's? And Emily, you look like you agree.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, I can't tell you how often I have to hear about Boone doesn't manage with his instincts are terrible, but Joe Torre's instincts are great. And I've said, were it his instincts, or was it the fact that he had like 4 Hall of Famers on his team at the same time,
right?
And the Yankees would then go out and get whatever free agent they needed to fill a need on the roster.
Well, that doesn't take away the fact that Boone has made some really pretty bad decisions.
But no, but I think
is there any manager that hasn't?
True story. Yeah, even the Tito Francona has made some bonehead decisions as well.
I think. Sorry, go ahead, Emily.
I was just going to add that, and baseball is one of those sports where, and I guess it's any sport, but I don't watch any other sport besides baseball, so you guys don't have to tell me. But
you'll see that a lot in football.
The wrong decision can produce the outcome that you wanted, and the right decision can also not produce the outcome you wanted. So, like, when that dynamic is the reality, people assign and project whatever if they hate the manager, then they are going to say that every bad decision was his, and everything that worked out is because they didn't listen to him or he didn't say anything. So when you're coming from a place like that, and fans should be, we're emotional. That's our job. And this
fanatics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but with that sort of, I always try to keep that in the back of my head. That's like, all right, person feels this way because they just hate this guy no matter what, and they want someone new.
Yeah. The Astros fans love to beat up Dusty, and
I love Dusty.
The Astros bullpen has not been what it was last year, but it's the same guys, right? So it's not like he can't put anybody in without them having a brain fart on the mound. So I think that the impact of a baseball manager is how he keeps a clubhouse together. And it seems like the guys like Aaron Boone. So it seems like he's doing the job he's supposed to do.
That's what I think too.
I think if you're rating a manager off of how your bullpen does from year to year, you're an idiot. I'm just going to say that, because stats in the bullpen, it's so much different as a relief pitcher. Whenever you're coming into the game, you have such a tiny sample size. You might have 3 batters that you have the opportunity to throw to this game. You might get to go 2 innings, but either way, your ERA is based off of 9 innings, right? So feasibly, it could be 10 or 11 outings before you have a 9 innings to actually get your ERA up and all of these other things. So you'll have pitchers, relief pitchers can have 1 bad month, 2 or 3 bad weeks, and suddenly they end the year with 67 innings, 102 strikeouts, and a 5.47 ERA, because April they had like an 11.2 ERA.
And you couldn't shake it off.
Exactly. So I just think from a relief pitching standpoint, it's so much feel. What's the opposing batting average against this guy? What's the on-base percentage? Those are the things that you can pay more attention to, because it's getting the ball over the plate. Are you walking a bunch of people? That's really what a manager wants more than anything, is to go to a bullpen arm and know that this guy's going to throw strikes or be somewhere close to the zone. That goes so far.
And then let his team behind him try to get the outs and all that. But if you keep walking players, listen, we'll need you to calm down with the walks.
Well, it kills everything. I mean, it kills momentum. It kills
the
game. It kills the guys in the field. Suddenly they're looking around. Yeah, I mean, seriously, it absolutely takes away from the game. Guys that pitch to contact and guys that can throw strikes and keep that game moving, keep everybody from the fan sitting at home to the catcher catching the ball and the umpire behind him, kept all of them more on their toes.
Yep.
I do have to. You said keep the game moving, and so I thought I would admit to a mea culpa. I am a fan of the pitch clock now. I went to 2 collegiate summer league games back to back, and there's no pitch clock at collegiate summer league.
How'd that work out for you?
Oh, it was a grind. And also too, in collegiate summer league, you're doing a lot more pitching changes because you have to. They're really on pitch limits.
Yeah, they're on the pitch limit. Yeah,
because they have to go back to college, and so it was grinding. The no hitter on Tuesday was 2 hours and 8 minutes. Like that.
How great was that though?
That was kind of nice. I had a steak after the game to celebrate.
Boom! I'm glad.
You know what was so crazy is that you got to see the no hitter Tuesday night. Wednesday night, I was at the Cardinals game where Dakota Hudson carries that no hitter into the 6th inning. I thought we had like some curse or some blessing or whatever you want to call it. It's like, oh wow, if we show up to a game, everybody's throwing a no hitter now. But I think the chances of Fromber throwing one is a little bit higher than Dakota Hudson. I will say that.
Dakota Hudson sounds like a country star on the Disney Channel.
He opened Wallen or whatever the guy.
Disney Plus not just regular Disney. It has to be Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
But no, what I was going to say, Jim, is 7-3 ball game, 2 hours 27 minutes. That's great, man. I love it.
Listen, a lot of people are going to complain about the pitch clock. It's not going to be me. I've actually been a fan of a lot of these new rule changes. I don't hate them.
Likewise.
I'll say this though, and we've talked about this 1,000 times, the runner on second, maybe move it to like the 11th or 12th inning and then maybe put him on first base, right? Do some minor tweaking here and there. But other than that, I'm not complaining. I am not complaining.
I love the bigger bases.
Yeah, me too. I think they're cool.
Bigger bases, the shift, banning the shift.
Yeah. I wanted
It's
to talk
more aesthetically pleasing.
I'm waiting for advertising on.
Yeah, and honestly, too, like teams are still shifting. They're just not shifting as much. Like,
right?
Oh yeah, they know how to get to that gray line right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they can move as soon as the ball's released.
Yeah,
So as soon as they do, they move right behind second base.
Shortstop's this far away, and as the ball's out, he's sprinting over to get to right field
over there. I wanted to ask Emily though about Yankees fans. Like, how has the fan base? Like, do you feel like the fan base has been relatively reasonable and rational about the season, or somebody wants to know what's next? Ketchup on a hot dog after liking the pitch clock? Yeah, I put ketchup and mustard on a hot dog. I'll give you my address if you want to fight.
So do I, Phil. Calm down.
Calm down,
Phil. As
rational. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Emily.
I'm non-ketchup person. I just sorry. Go ahead, Em.
I don't think rational and reasonable goes very well in a sentence with Yankee fans. And
I didn't want to be the first one to say it.
And listen, they have every right to be disappointed by the season, disappointed by the deadline. That's not the irrational part, as far as I'm concerned. I think that the season is far from over. There's still like 50 games left.
Yeah, they're only 3 games out of the wild card.
Exactly, and I get it. You know, these kind of seasons are a really tough grind. They had a similar season in 2021 where, yeah, at the end of the day, they won 92 games, but it was a grind. It was up and down. They never had win streaks. They couldn't sweep any team, and that's how it's been this year. So it's hard to have hope even going into the postseason. And when you're a Yankees fan, and there are fans here that can agree with me, so I don't feel as bad on this podcast saying it, but your perspective changes and your expectations change. So there are plenty of teams and fans that would, oh my God, I would love for my team to be in the postseason. I don't care what they do. That hasn't happened but the Yankees make it there every year. So just making it isn't enough for Yankee fans. And I don't necessarily blame them for that. So it's tough to have hope because sure, they can get hot, I guess. So no, I wouldn't say that. I think that they're being as reasonable as Yankee fans can possibly be.
But I've always made this comparison, and I think it's apt. Like, I'm a Cowboys fan, so it's the same pressure, and then the entire world mocks you if you don't win the Super Bowl. And
you also have a bad coach.
Now that is true, and I do think a football coach does matter. We do have a comment about the Yankees. I feel Yankee fans are rational when it comes to being pissed that Giancarlo is either hurt or strikes out often. Emily, ever
he literally hit a home run tonight, and he hit one last night,
say,
Zach. So
he hit a 3-run bomb tonight. So
I am not a Yankee fan at all. You already know this. I'm not a Yankee fan. I'll say this to defend the Yankees a little bit. You guys have gotten hit by the injury bug a lot as well. So it's like,
and it's been over years. It's not even just been like
right.
I can't remember the last time the Yankees were fully healthy.
And that's hard, right? Like, I mean, you cannot overcome things like that. You know,
folks, let's call something out too. The division's really freaking good.
That's 100%.
Yes.
And
I mean, they're over 500 and they're in last place and being laughed at.
We want to talk about managers that do matter. How about Kevin Cash, right? Yeah, Tampa is going to be good as long as this guy is still suiting up a uniform because he finds a way to make them win.
Yep.
That is a nails division. I mean, the Sox fans and Yankees fans that are moping around, it's like, holy crap, it's because Toronto got good. Baltimore got really good, really quick, and they're getting better.
And I'm not surprised the Yankees didn't make that many trades either at the trade deadline. Just like, what? For what?
Well, exactly. No one's going to move the needle for them.
No.
And now with the additional playoff spots available, you've got more teams that are tasting a little bit more hunger. You know, in St. Louis, it was a very real discussion a week before the trade deadline whether this team was really going to be sellers or if they were still like, even though we're in last place, you know, we won 17 in a row in September a couple of years ago. But there was there was an article from the Athletics beat reporter, she writes for the Athletic, Katie Wu, and she was saying, I don't know whether this team wants to be buyers or sellers. We're in a horrible freaking division. If we were in the AL East, there wouldn't be any doubt we would have been selling guys off in May. So, I mean, it's a tough division.
Look at the AL Central, right? Like, I mean, you had Cleveland that's half a game back, a horrible division. I mean, the Central is so bad. I think it's like the worst division in Major League Baseball. So I was one of those who was like, listen, you made a couple of moves here and there, and you can actually surpass Minnesota because Minnesota is not running away with that division. No. But I'm like, it caught me way off guard when the Guardians started getting rid of players, and I'm like, what are you doing? You could actually be hosting a playoff series here.
Yeah, but I think you got to look at that lineup also and go, okay, who's in the Central, and then what? And that's the same way it was for St. Louis. I'm glad that they blew the damn thing up because it needs an overhaul. We've been hovering around, we got 88 wins and we'll beat everybody but Milwaukee. No, you can't continue to live like that.
But same thing with our teams. Bieber was injured, like a whole starting pitching, all of them. Every Quantrill injured, all of them. So I was like, I wasn't surprised, but I was like, you still could have, you were managing and you got those players back later in the season. You could have done something. But
yeah, I mean, and if I talk about the Cardinals and really the number one thing that led to the Cardinals falling apart this year, Yadier Molina retired, and he's such a leader in the clubhouse that was lost. He's such a leader in that pitching staff that was lost. So yeah, it's kind of crazy of how different teams miss for different reasons. Injury bug, somebody left you weren't counting on. There are certain. I look at Texas. I think the number one thing that Texas did brilliantly in the offseason was hire Mike Maddox after he retired as the Cardinals pitching coach, because the Rangers pitching staff, in spite of injury bugs and everything, they're still very competitive because of that. So I do think the right coach in the right situation can make a difference, when the wrong one can definitely also make a difference, can run you into the ground.
Yeah, but I think to Emily's point earlier, I don't think that is seen in sort of game minute by minute decisions.
No, not in game. No, I'm talking about in the big picture.
Yeah,
and how everything in baseball is a marathon, right?
Yep.
Few things are a sprint. The only thing that's quick in baseball is the actual moment you're actually touching the ball or the ball's in play. Everything else is a marathon, and it's the same way with coaching. You have to have a philosophy and a system, and make sure that these guys are following.
Yeah, the pitching coach definitely matters for sure.
Yeah.
We see it on the Yankees. It's what's kept them in it, is because the minute that they pivoted and they got Matt Blake from the Indians, or the Guardians, well, they were the Indians at that time, it's changed everything, and it's allowed them to really find a lot of diamonds in the rough with other teams and just turn, Clay Holmes was not really that great on the Pirates, and the Pirates have pretty good pitching, and they have in the past. And then he came to New York, and Matt Blake and whatever system they have in place, it's just really been great. And it's really been, it's made even helped Garrett Cole a lot. I mean, because Cole's obviously always been one of the best pitchers in the league, but he used the spider tack, and that's a big adjustment for a lot of these guys to have made when they suddenly weren't able to use whatever substance they used. And Cole's now back to Cy Young form. So pitching coach definitely matters.
Absolutely.
We got a couple of questions. I don't know who Patrick Larson wants to know what we think about the Toronto Blue Jays and how they improved. Any of you guys have a specific opinion on that?
Yeah, seeing how that the Cardinals made 2 trades with them on the same damn day. Yeah, you've got you needed infield, you needed middle infield help and depth. Paul DeJong provides that to you. Little pop on the bat. He's a great clubhouse guy. Paul DeJong's good. You've got the hardest throwing kid in the major leagues, Jordan Hicks. His sinker averages 100.5 miles per hour.
Jesus.
He hits 105 on the gun. You've got a little bit of bullpen issues in Toronto, not a lot. You just sealed those up. So and we thank you for the pitchers that you've given us in return. Clauferstein and Roby, I think, is who we got from there. No, Roby came from the Rangers, but you got a little bit of help there with the Blue Jays from the Cardinals, and I don't think you need a lot, but where you needed holes plugged in the dike, we helped out.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too, to Emily's point earlier about rebuilds, I mean, you can't look at what the Orioles have done, and that's of course been a team that was been lost in the wilderness for a long time. Yeah. Scott, we have a question for you from Zach. He wants to know, is Adam Wainwright lacking the same leadership qualities that Yadi had?
Adam Wainwright is an amazing leader, but Yadier Molina is a catcher that each and every pitcher threw to. That is a dynamic that you can't carry over. Adam Wainwright's not calling the games. Wilson Contreras is now. How Yadier Molina calls a game and how Wilson Contreras call a game are vastly different. as the Cardinals, showed in May as they tried to bench him, and then we're not going to bench him, and never mind, smoke and mirrors here, kids. JR didn't really get shot.
No, it was handled horribly.
See how I'm still going back. Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. Don't get me started on the Cardinals manager. There's something to be. No, he's the one that handled it badly. But no, I think that Adam Wainwright is an amazing leader. What Adam Wainwright does in the community of St. Louis, also what he does in the clubhouse, and how many guys he gets to go each year to Haiti and build houses and just do things for communities. Adam Wainwright is my favorite Major League Baseball player. He's absolutely, so maybe I'm not the right guy to ask, but I don't think anybody has a problem with Waino. And he also was injured a lot this year. Adam Wainwright needs 2 wins to get to 200.
Nice.
And he can't get there yet. He hasn't been able to get there all year. He's needed 2 wins for a long, long time. I wish Yachty had come back and catch 2 games. That's all they need. We'll be good from them.
That'd be sick.
That would be.
Can you imagine
putting butts in seats? Because last night they were like, what's tonight's attendance? I promise you, it's not 35,000. I promise. This looks like Miami in a day game in 97 or something. It was.
I think that's probably a great place to wrap this up. Our very first episode of Let's Get To Live. Before we go around the horn, let's talk. Well, Scott, our next episode comes up tomorrow. Emily, when do we get the next Break Balls pod?
Hopefully next week. We've had a few weeks off because my esteemed co-host is also a huge Fish fan, and this is the week in the summer that Fish is at MSG for 7 nights. So he's gone to, I think, basically all 7. So hopefully we'll be back next week. I could do it by myself, but it's not as fun.
It's not as well. Yeah, it's not. Ed, what about that hat? Monday. What do we have Monday?
Well, this week I have Todd Radom on the podcast, so that was a cool episode. You guys should take a look at that one. That was pretty cool. And then next Monday I have Alan Miller coming on. So you guys have definitely some good names coming up pretty soon for you guys.
And tomorrow for Let's Get To, we have a special episode. We're going to have the Vermont Mountaineers on, but also talking about the flooding in Montpelier and how that team is helping hopefully put those lives back together. So until next time, guys, enjoy some baseball. Let's get to.